This winter, keep your home warm and help lower your energy bills with WarmFlow, the home heating experts. With an eco-friendly range of high-efficiency oil boilers and Xeno R290 air and ground source heat pumps, WarmFlow provides home heating solutions designed to save you money while keeping you cozy, whatever the weather. Trusted for over 50 years, WarmFlow delivers heating that works smarter, not harder. For all your home heating needs, visit warmflow.co.uk.
Coming up on this episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast.
Organisations have been designed to scale. Since the Industrial Revolution, we discovered that if you get loads of people doing particular tasks over and over, they'll be much more efficient. So they're taught to scale. So we've been recognising and rewarding and promoting the humans who behave like really good machines, you know, consistent and reliable and don't make mistakes and show up and never get tired, while building machines to behave like humans. So it struck me as a radical concept that maybe we should try thinking about being really good humans.
If you ever thought, like me, that art and technology are two very different areas and you either choose to work in one or the other, but certainly not both, then you probably haven't met Joan Mulvihill. Joan has been a regular voice on all things technology related for years. She was CEO of the Irish Internet Association before working in Siemens for many years, and she was involved in other tech-related organisations, including the IRDG Innovation Network. But she's also a very accomplished artist, and her great passion in life is working in the intersection between art and technology. What is that? I've heard Joan on shows before, and we invited her onto the Mario Rosenstock podcast so that we could get stuck into some of the most fascinating areas she talks about in much greater detail. And we had such a unique and interesting conversation about things like Elon Musk and the rise of the broligarchy and how they have been colonising our lives, in a sense, like the colonial powers of old. We talk about the dangers of AI and why Joan doesn't ask ChatGPT anything. Art, grief and loss. Why workplace should recognise and reward what she calls artist leaders, and so much more.
Utopia is not having nothing to do. It's not, oh, AI will do everything for us, we'll have nothing to do. We live for purpose, for problem solving, for process, for going through all of that. That is the joy and essence of life. I remember I Googled him every morning and every night. I Googled his name, I Googled heaven. I kept trying to find him somewhere. And if the internet could just tell me where he was, then maybe he just wouldn't be gone. He would just be somewhere else that I couldn't go, but the death wouldn't be so final. And I work in tech, and I know that this is nonsense, and yet I still did it. They almost celebrate the genius, and because of that, they'll excuse him for the badness. And I'm going, that's like telling me, you know, Fred West was, you know, split the atom or something. I said I couldn't give a continental. He murdered loads of people.
Fred West split the atom.
You know what I mean?
History revisionism.
Yeah.
Did you not know?
No, did you not?
Fred West split fucking atom.
My full chat with Joan Mulvihill coming up after this. Wow, what a week it was. Who could see this coming? The Beckhams, Brooklyn Beckham, unleashing a missive on Instagram, which has got the whole world talking, including me.
Oh, David, they're lovely.
I picked them from the garden, Posh.
Okay, guys, we're ready to roll. Beckham's new documentary, action. Guys, what would be a normal day in the Beckham household?
Gosh.
I'm just all about the kids and family, really.
I get up and I make a nice cup of tea for Victoria.
David likes posh tea, don't you, David?
No, you're the posh one. Your dad drove a Rolls Royce, remember?
Do you like Earl Grey, David?
Didn't he play for Fulham?
David? He's so silly.
What, Posh?
Guys, that is absolutely lovely. It's so natural. We'll keep the cameras rolling and just move to another angle.
Right.
David and Victoria, can you address the controversy about your son, Brooklyn?
Oh, that.
God.
Gosh, we've hardly thought about that, have we, David?
Look, kids make mistakes. I think they're making a mountain out of a teapot.
Victoria, what about claims of your inappropriate dancing at his wedding?
Oh, that was just a mummy having a laugh with her son.
Sorry, what does inappropriate mean again, Posh?
David!
Guys, that is absolutely charming. We're just going to take a quick break as a crew. We'll see you back here in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Right, Brooklyn, fallout, strategy. What's our position?
Contained, but not neutralised.
Right, we need 3 opinion pieces. 1 American, 1 British, 1 vaguely European.
I'll call my guys in Cosmopolitan and Vogue.
I'll take care of the idiots in the Daily Mail.
Angles, David.
Angles. Brooklyn, young man traumatised by internet weirdness.
I like it.
Nepo baby tortured by self-doubt.
What about Insta?
Story with caption. We love Brooklyn. We will continue to love Brooklyn. No further comments. We shut it down.
I like it.
It's succinct.
Cut it off at the legs.
I'll have legal sue a random blogger. Shot across the bow.
I like it.
I like you, Push.
And I tolerate you, David.
Here they come.
Okay, guys, just set up in here.
Toe, a deer, a female deer. Ray, a drop of golden sun.
Guys, that is absolutely charming. What are you doing?
Oh, that's all we do every day. Sing The Sound of Music.
Okay.
It's our favourite film.
Oh, David.
Well, we'll leave you alone.
Back
in 5 minutes.
Right, they're gone. We concede nothing. Protect the brand at all costs. Apologise vaguely, but let public guilt do the heavy lifting.
What about the trademark on Brooklyn's name?
I'm on it, Posh. Statute of limitations lasts till 2030. Legally, he has nowhere to go. We've got him.
I like it.
You need to do television.
I've got BBC Breakfast on board.
Angles.
Right, I'm going to pivot to protective mother, and I'm going to cry once.
Cry twice. Top and tail.
Twice. Check.
Hello, guys. Ready again?
Oh, yeah. We're just playing Scrabble. B-A-L ball.
Ball has 2 L's, David.
So, what will the Beckham family be doing for the rest of the day?
I'm going to teach Harper keepy uppies.
And I'm cooking a nice big shepherd's pie for the family.
That's great, guys. Can we...
I'll take this. Greg, talk to me. No, we need to control the narrative, Greg. I told you, don't give it any oxygen. It's an evolving family matter. We need to protect the long-term brand equity and stakeholders. Now do it, or you're terminated.
Guys, we're still rolling.
Push.
You cut that bit out, or I'll cut your bloody off, mate.
Yes, absolutely. No problem, Mrs. Beckham.
Now, cup of tea, anyone?
An exclusive new comedy every week on the Mario Rosenstock podcast. And please get in touch, mariorosenstock@gmail.com. I read them all and I get back to most of them. Please suggest to me new characters that you would like to see me doing. Anybody that you would like to see me interviewing, suggest them. I've used so many of your suggestions before that have been helpful. Who would you like to hear me interview on this podcast? And of course, please tell one other person, if you can, just one, if you enjoy these podcasts. So let's go straight over to the GoLoud studio where Joan Mulvihill is ready and waiting to chat all about things art, technology, AI, creativity, the world of work and lots more. Enjoy.
Joan Mulvihill, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
It's great to be here. I'm thrilled.
Good. I asked for you specifically because I've heard you on a couple of things recently and I thought you were really interesting and I thought your story was really interesting and your commentary is really interesting as well. So where I heard you recently was On the Other Hand. It's a podcast I listen to regularly. For those of you out there who don't listen to The Other Hand, I suggest you do. It's a really good sort of, I call it a pocket podcast. It's sort of brings you up to date on what's happening in Ireland and the world economically. Talks a lot about Britain and UK politics. And it features 2 guys, Chris Johns and Jim Power. And they're very funny because they don't know they're very funny, but they're like the odd couple.
They really are. I've known Jim for, I think, about 25 years now, which I find staggering. We roadshowed together with Ismay a million years ago, and that's how I got to know him. So he asked me to guest on that a few times.
Yeah, so first of all, you have a very erudite chap called Chris Johns. Incredibly well read and kind of an economist and very, very thoughtful. He used to work on Eamon Dunphy's The Stand, and he's really rather intellectual and brilliant. And then you have Jim Power, who... I have some manufacturing statistics here, Chris. If you wouldn't, yeah, thanks, Jim. We'll leave that till later. Maybe just listen to my mellifluous voice a bit more before we get back to the boring old drony statistics again. And they invited you on as for what you are. You are a tech expert. But what I found fascinating about you, and one of the things I found fascinating, my audience might find fascinating, is the intersection of the 2 things in your life. You are a tech expert. You are a digital expert, but you are an artist. And I find that they couldn't be in a way, well, you'll prove me otherwise, but in a way they're diametrically opposed, one might have thought.
I think it was a big surprise to a lot of people. It was about 7 or 8 years ago, I stuck a painting up on LinkedIn and someone said, when did you start doing that? And I said, I've always done that. And I just never mentioned it to anyone before. But I think it kind of found its groove really in the last couple of years. And I went, all in. And I realized it was never more important to be doing it in the context of my life in tech. So for me, it's a perfect merger.
It's really great to talk to you because it's interesting to talk to somebody in tech who isn't just going to be total tech.
Oh no, well, I'm also not a techie. Like, I couldn't write a line of code to save my life. I have been the CEO of the Irish Internet Association, and I can honestly say I had never been a CEO before that moment, nor had I ever really worked in tech before. So I do remember with my smartphone, probably the first one I had, in 2009, going to a studio to talk about cloud computing. As I was Googling data centers on the way there, I was 48 hours in the job. So I realized in that moment, it's probably not that complicated. Tech is actually pretty straightforward. It's on the understanding of the infrastructure of it all and how the systems work. And that always really interested me, how systems work, how that bigger picture. I did economics in university. Well, I did a BCom, but I can do macroeconomics, micro rules. That is not for me. And I think my art is very similar. I'm not the most technically precise painter, but I think painting is a particular skill, like writing code is a particular skill. But you don't need to know how to write code to work in tech, and you don't need to be a precision painter to be an artist.
Let me be a little rude for a second. You worked for Siemens.
Yeah.
And you were, listen to the name of her job, folks. She was the digitalization, sustainability and creativity evangelist. What a load.
Okay, so I'll tell you how that actually happened. They were looking to fill a digitalization lead role. And then I got there and I was about 3 months in, and my boss says to me, Joan, I don't think you're going to end up doing the job we hired you to do. And I said, well, that's a relief. He said, why? I said, I never read the job description. And he looked at me aghast. He said, I said, I don't read those things. I said, no one would ever want to do the job that's on the job description. I said, those things exist to keep HR people in jobs. I said, you seemed like really cool people doing really interesting things. And I thought if I could get it, I would really like to come and work with you guys as myself here and see how that panned out. So that panned out really well for about almost 7 years.
Yeah. And why did you leave it?
I got made redundant.
Okay.
Yeah, because, that happens. You know, it's large multinationals. It does happen. I don't take these things personally. Mm-hmm. So I started off as digitalization lead. And then somebody left. And then they said, we want you to take on sustainability as well. But you can call yourself whatever you like. Meanwhile, I was in plain sight talking at conferences as a digitalization and sustainability lead, talking about the importance of being an artist leader. Because it struck me.
What is an artist leader?
So for me, I got thinking about how organizations have been designed to scale. Since the Industrial Revolution, we discovered that if you get loads of people doing particular tasks over and over, they'll be much more efficient. So they're taught to scale. So we've been recognizing and rewarding and promoting the humans who behave like really good machines, consistent and reliable and don't make mistakes and show up and never get tired, while building machines to behave like humans. So it struck me as a radical concept that maybe we should try thinking about being really good humans. And then what would that mean? So naturally, I was 19 hours in the car driving around listening to Sapiens, the audiobook, because I can't read all that. And so
Yuval Harari.
Yeah. So I was listening to that. And at the end, while making mental notes somewhere on the M4 regularly, I realised that to be human came down to two characteristics that separated us from other species. This is just like my hypothesis now. So first of all, we're the only species who can imagine a world that doesn't exist and bring it into reality. And we are the only species, and this is the more crucial part really, beyond that creativity, is purpose. I think we're the only species that understand that we have ancestors and we will have descendants.
And we will be gone.
And we will be gone.
We're the only species, I think, that understands we will
our
die.
Mortality. Exactly. So, and that bit on death I'm going to come back to because it's really important for me. But I think then that the best expression of our humanity must be where our creativity meets our purpose. And the problem is that creative, purpose-driven people are notoriously difficult to manage. I know because I've been made redundant. We are notoriously difficult to manage. We don't necessarily always fit in neat boxes in organizations doing repeat things. So it struck me that actually a lot of creative people get pushed out of organizations, or they get pigeonholed into very constrained ways of being creative in an organization. There was an amazing woman called Chris Seeley. She was a supervisor. She's passed away, but she was supervisor to one of my colleagues doing his PhD. And he introduced me to her work on artful knowing. And she had this idea that creative people existed in organizations in kind of, the events space, make things look pretty and nice. And then they moved into marketing. And then the engineers wanted to crack at creativity, so they called it design thinking. But they had to leave the word thinking in there so everyone would know they were really clever. And that it wasn't intuitive, Yeah. And then there was the artful knowing bit. And it struck me that is much more around intuition. It's much more about our human innate creativity. So anyway, these creative people, these creative purpose-driven people often end up being kind of renegades in organizations. Like Steve Jobs was one. He even managed to get fired from his own company.
Yeah.
Because their bigness, their creativity becomes too difficult to put in the boxes of efficiency. So they end up leaving. And then it struck me that we probably have an entire generation now of large multinationals that are being managed by painters and not artists. So for me, I was thinking then about the difference between a painter and an artist. So loads of people can paint by numbers with a set of instructions. You can execute on a painting, but you won't necessarily create art. Art is much more experimental. It's much more essentially creative. And so it struck me that there were loads of people who could paint who were artists, but there were loads of people who could paint who aren't artists, because artists explore the concept and painters explore the medium, and maybe managers explore the medium of IT, the medium of HR, the medium of whatever function it is they're working with. But artists are more leaders. They're more interested in exploring the concept of, why are we doing this? What is this business all about? Like, where are we bringing value to the world? And so it struck me that if we've been recognizing, rewarding and promoting the humans who behave like the best machines, we've been rewarding and promoting an awful lot of painter managers, and a lot of the artist leaders have in fact left or had the life and joy sucked out of them.
And as you said, humans now are... Humans are also trying to make machines which think more and more like humans. And of course, we are reaching a threshold of that now, where the machines are now Siri and are ChatGPT and are talking back to us with that fake little accent where they do the, that little, hey, really good question. And they do a little cough.
Oh, yeah, they're so sycophantic.
Yeah, but they do.
And their fake modesty.
Yeah, the fake modesty. Well, obviously, every question you ask them is, that's a really good question. I'm really glad you asked me that. But now their voice is sort of, they do a little kind of as if they're trying to communicate that they're human nearly, by doing that little thing.
Their own little verbal tics.
Yeah, but so we're trying to make machines that are almost human. Tell me about this painting you did, which I suppose kind of crystallizes the intersection you have between tech and art. So
about 18 months ago, I saw an open call came up for an exhibition in London. So an open call, for anyone who's not an artist, is when someone puts out a theme and any artist anywhere can submit a painting and have it considered for selection, for curation. That's amazing. So there was an open call for an exhibition in London, and the theme was Art in the Age of AI. And there I was that summer, and I paint, and I'm going, that's so my topic. I should definitely do something for that. And I was in a meeting and I was talking about AGI, artificial general intelligence. And I love an old wordplay. And VR and AR also came to mind. So virtual reality and augmented reality. And I said, VR, AR and AGI, it's an anagram of Viagra. And I think that maybe AI is like the little blue pill that changed the world, And I thought it was funny. It's where most of these tech bros are keeping their intelligence to artificially enhance their performance, and it's loaded with male bias. So I decided I would do a giant Viagra pill painting in a big pink canvas with a little rocket ship, because I had to call the painting Projectile Dysfunction in honour of Elon Musk and his need to get his little phallic rocket ship up harder and faster than maybe Jeff Bezos's. And then, of course, all art in the age of AI is kind of a theft of artist copyright. And I'm there breaching technically the copyright of Pfizer, who make Viagra. So I signed the painting PFREE free because they keep stealing our work. So anyway, the painting got selected to go to the exhibition in Mayfair in London, which was a hoot. Cool. And it spawned 7 a series of 7 angry pink paintings. They're called Digitalization Unplugged, Humanity Rewired.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are currently in an exhibition in the Lewin Gallery in Athlone as part of the Westmeath Artist Award. But they've kind of done a little tour. They're still available to go on tour. They've been to the Finnish ambassador last year, the Finnish ambassador to Ireland. Such a cool lady. She's gone back to Finland now, but she invited me in to do an event with the Irish, Finnish and Irish Japanese Business Network to speak to their members and just present the paintings and do the talk. So anyway, the second painting was a speech I gave in 2013, where I called out the technology companies as the paper was called Digital Colonialism and the Protocol of Trust, because I was invited to give a talk at the Future of the Internet Assembly. It was some big 10th anniversary conference in the Helix, and Sinead Creeley, a friend of mine, invited me to give a talk, a keynote speech at the start of it. And never knowingly over-prepared, I sat down the night before and wrote a stream of consciousness on my thoughts on the future of the internet. And I realised that the technology companies were, in reality, colonial powers that had invaded and colonised our lives. I got into tech, I was about 35, and people were talking about digital natives and digital migrants. And I said, I'm too old to be a digital native. So I didn't grow up. I mean, I was born in 1973, so I did not grow up with devices. But I said, I didn't migrate to tech either. It invaded and colonized my life. And like any colonial power, we're all conscious of colonialism now, but they came in with its own languages, its own social structures, its own viruses. It came with its own leaders who were all crazy emperors. And so I said, it's kind of a digital colonialism. And anyone who doesn't go with it is left isolated and on their own without a voice or a vote. So I gave this paper and I said that they had the power to control global groupthink and that we had the right to ask to whom are they accountable. I said and suggested that they might be able to determine the outcome of things like elections, and that national boundaries were going to become increasingly less important because people were aligning by values and tribes online. So anyway, naturally enough, no one was listening to me. And about 3 or 4 years later, people started talking about we should have a Magna Carta for tech, and I'm going, I think I called it a protocol of trust. But those ideas are kind of obvious now, and everyone's talking about them. So I was really miffed last year when I did the Viagra painting that I actually, in a fit of pique, transcribed that entire speech in pink onto a pink canvas. And in the blue at the bottom, I said, and here's when men said the same thing, and I bet you can read this part. And I went over it in varnish, and you can only see it when the light hits in a certain way, but in varnish it spells out, I told you so, with love, Cassandra. Wow. So Cassandra in Greek mythology, gifted with seeing the future, cursed with no one believing her. So yeah, and then there was a line in, so can I keep talking about it? Because so there was a line in that speech that talk was really personal to me. I thought about colonialism, I thought about how I felt about it, but the timing was particularly poignant for me. I had lost somebody.
Yes, this is when you wanted to return to the subject.
Yeah, so I lost somebody a few years before that, and every night and every morning.
Who did you lose? You don't want to talk.
I'd rather not. That's all right. It's okay.
That's okay. Somebody close.
Somebody very close to me died. And I remember I Googled him every morning and every night. I Googled his name. I Googled heaven. I kept trying to find him somewhere. And if the internet could just tell me where he was, then maybe he just wouldn't be gone. He would just be somewhere else that I couldn't go, but that death wouldn't be so final. And I realised when I came out of that crazy year of grief that was a really odd thing to do. And I work in tech, and I know that this is nonsense, and yet I still did it. And it struck me as strange and sad.
Why did you do it? Tell me more about that. Why did you do it?
I just couldn't get my head around the fact that he was gone. And I just thought, I just kept looking for evidence. And I kept looking around my apartment, and he wasn't there, obviously.
Evidence for?
That he was somewhere.
Yeah.
And letting go is a big part of grief. And so I would just obsessively look at my phone and I'd Google heaven just to get just a little bit of hope that he was somewhere. And so I realized that instead of soul searching, I was Google searching, and instead of turning to God, I was turning to Google. It all just seemed odd and irrational later. But I thought if I was vulnerable to that and I understood that the answers were not in the machine, then what would it be? What is it doing to the minds of people who aren't aware, who are maybe sleepwalking into tech? And so I referenced that in the talk, and the last line of that speech says, and as for finding heaven, some things aren't on Google Maps, some things just take faith. And so the next painting in that series was a Google map, just in the search box, it just said, where did you go? And I think the you in that, where did you go? It wasn't so much about him, but was it faith or was it me? Where did we go in all of this? So there's a lot for me as I've worked in tech over the years that has thrown up really big philosophical conversations with myself.
And with everything else. And you're raising them here and they're fascinating. You talked about digital colonialism there and how they are not answerable to anybody. And I mean, you're completely right. And nobody is more emblematic of that than Musk, for example. I mean, like you talk about these people like Sam Altman and Musk and even somebody like Peter Thiel, who seems to have...
I think he's possibly, for me, he's the worst.
Yeah, who seems to have captured this person, J.D. Vance, who's the Vice President of the United States. He seems to be his sponsor, his mentor, his owner.
It's very Svengali-like, I think. It's very controlling. It's very the orchestrator. And what I also was interesting about Peter Thiel is most people could close their eyes tomorrow and they have a mental image of what Mark Zuckerberg looks like and Sam Altman looks like. Peter Thiel he's very much more in that shadowy character. And again, in that speech, the analogy that I used in the digital colonialism paper was very much around Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. And I said, there's just some guy behind a curtain giving us all these answers and telling us how the world would look. There was a really funny thing actually on I saw it on Instagram. I screen grabbed it and put it up on LinkedIn. And within like 2 hours, at like 4,500 impressions, not a lot, but a lot in that space of time, with something with no tags on it. And I said, things I'd rather do than ask ChatGPT. And one of them is ask a crow, ask into the screaming winds, the howling winds, ask the strange lady who feeds the birds, look at an old book, anything. And I will do anything rather than ask ChatGPT.
Let's talk about a few of the issues around it, okay? Because they're very germane right now, and it's funny that you're actually talking to me on the podcast right now, because even in the last few days, so many of these issues have risen. Right? Grok, for example. Basically, tell people very, very briefly what is Grok and why it's in the news at the moment.
So Grok is obviously, not obviously, Grok is an AI platform, and it is part of the Elon Musk empire. And it is possible with Grok AI to take an image of you or me, or worse, a child, and put in a prompt and said remove clothing. And you can ask it to do any number of awful and vile things, and it will do it for you. And it is utterly unregulated at the moment. And so when challenged about it, they said, oh yeah, sorry, okay, well, we'll stop making it free. We'll put it behind a paywall. So basically they've said, great, well, we'll try and make money out of it then. So
God almighty, that's called pimping.
Yeah, it's so bad. And I think a lot of these things were kind of inevitable. So there is an idea that you have to be for AI or against AI. And I don't think it's that straightforward. It's very nuanced. There's loads of positive use cases for AI. There's loads of negative ones. So for me, I liken it to drugs. I say I'm all for chemotherapy and immunotherapy. Lord knows I'm all for HRT. But, there's loads of good drugs. But I'm not for handing out fentanyl to teenagers on the streets. Like, that's a bad idea. Yeah. And then I get... So I think it's a bit like that. So there's really good drugs, there's really bad ones. You need to regulate, and we need to regulate for AI. There's really good use cases for AI, and there's really appalling ones. And it's where do we regulate, and where do we make sure that it's well applied? And there is a cost to all of it. So, Grok is the big offender at the moment, but it's been possible, and we've known it's possible for the longest time, and we just need to get ahead of it.
One of my earliest exposures, just as a person who reads a bit or watches TV and watches films and stuff, would have been back to 2001: A Space Odyssey. So Stanley Kubrick made this film in about 1968, and it was inspired by writings by Arthur C. Clarke, who was a famous science fiction author, but also a futurist.
Yes.
A person who used to spend quite a long time envisioning the future. And it's peculiar because there is a video of him on YouTube from the 60s, and he's talking about what the Earth might look like in 2020 or so. And he ain't far wrong. And but in that film, there's a famous computer called HAL.
Yes.
And HAL ends up, you can't control HAL anymore. HAL controls them, which is like what we talk about.
What we're having right now. And it's kind of coinciding with 1984 also happening. So there's a lot of the boys, the economists are always saying, we should listen to the artists. They see the future first. I was on a panel last year or the year before. Francis Rowan was chairing it. It was for the best acronym ever. Future of Fiscal Studies, FFS, were having a panel, and there was a guy from the Department of Revenue, there was one of the big four accounting firms, there was me, and then there was Stephen Kinsella, the economist down in UL. And Stephen's great, but he's often said, and Dave McWilliams says it too, the boys all say it's like, oh, we should listen to the artists, they see the future first. It's that great quote. And I'm going, but you never invite artists to any of your panels.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. I said, they've always been predicting the future. And that's why, again, I think this artist leader thing is really important, because I actually think that these bad guy actors, they are creative, purpose-driven people. It's just really bad purpose.
Yeah.
So the only way to counter that is have really good purpose-driven people, creative, purpose-driven people to
just to sidetrack a second. And
Sorry,
no, but you're perfect. Just to sidetrack slightly, because I'm just jumping around a little. I mean, you talk about these are creative, purpose-driven people. Just to sidetrack slightly on someone like Elon Musk, and you can put me straight about this as well if you like, because I'm sure you know far more. I think that there's a kind of cult of personality and a myth built up around some of these people as well. I mean, for example, Musk has tried to spread this idea that he came to the United States with just a few dollars, that he was broke. Then there's a video of his father on the internet saying that they were brought up with Rolls Royces, that they went skiing every year in St. Moritz. They were multimillionaires. And so that seems to be a complete lie. Then there's the idea that he is just a boy genius, that he invented everything. He invented nothing.
He invented nothing.
I don't know of anything he's invented. He jumped on board on PayPal. He jumped on board on SpaceX. He jumped on board on Tesla. Well, after these things were already created. In fact, the name Tesla was already created.
Yeah,
if the average person on the street might think, Musk was inspired by Nikola Tesla, so named his electric car company. Nothing of the sort happened. It seems that he is a kind of a predatory opportunist, a capitalist, and an investor.
I think predatory capitalist is probably the best way to describe it, and entirely opportunistic. And people then try and say, they almost celebrate the genius. And because of that, they'll excuse him for the badness. And I'm going, that's like telling me, Fred West was, split the atom or something. I said I couldn't give a continental. He murdered loads of people.
Fred West split the atom.
You know what I mean?
Good new history revisionism.
Yeah.
Did you not know?
Did you know?
Fred West split fucking atom.
Well, you know what I mean? It's like taking a really bad guy and said they did something really clever. Who cares?
Yeah, I know.
I don't care how clever you are. If you're a bad person.
Jeffrey Dahmer created the iPhone.
There you go. It's just like endless.
Good dude. Then he ate it, unfortunately.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Any number of these people can be really clever. It's using your powers for good or using your powers for evil. I mean, that's when it comes down to it. And we all got to draw a line. So I live in Mullingar, and there was loads of young lads from CBS in Mullingar, Colossaura, at the Young Scientist last week. And one of them had an economics project, and it was the value of multinationals to the Irish economy. And what happened if one of them pulled out? And I said, bigger question is, boys, when he talked about all the jobs, I said, would you work for one of them? And they hadn't thought about it. And I thought that was really interesting. Would you work for one of them? We all have to make choices. I mean, I think Grok X right now, I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't know how anyone could stomach having that on their paycheck. I don't care what you do. You could be, kissing babies all weekend.
What about all the other AIs? Try and, again, think of my listeners, if you can. I mean, just that there's a few AIs out there, right? There's Gemini.
There's Gemini, there's Claude, there's. Do
they all do the same thing?
They all kind of more or less do the same thing. And there's loads of people who want to evaluate one over the other. And to be honest with you, I don't use them. Genuinely, I don't. And I I've never really used one. I've occasionally asked a question. It's like going as an experiment to find something out, but I've actually to see how good or bad the answer is. But I don't use them. I know how to write an email.
Yeah.
I know how to string a sentence together, more or less.
Okay, so
I know how to have an idea.
And this is one of the things you're worried about, isn't it?
I want to protect my own neural pathways. I don't want a quick answer. I want to find out. And again, that's part of that artist mindset. It's the experimentation. It's the failure. It's the pivot.
Oh, you're so right.
Why would you want to outsource that?
This is the big problem. Joan, this is the big problem, isn't it? That it's not finding the answer that's important. It's the process by which humans go about finding the answer that makes us us. That's
the joy.
Yeah.
Why would I want to hand over the joy? And then I was thinking of that lovely famous quote by Descartes, I think, therefore I am. So if I don't think,
I'm not.
Then am I not? And how horrific would that be? Like, what is the point? So that's why there's another painting. It's called The Princess and the Pea. And it's, this idea that I did, yeah. And it's part of that series, and there's a crown, and then there's all these mattresses and the pea at the bottom and a ladder. Utopia is not having nothing to do. It's not, AI will do everything for us, we'll have nothing to do. We live for purpose, for problem solving, for process, for going through all of that. That is the joy and essence of life, is to discover things and make things.
I've even talked to people about this idea. I don't know if you've ever discussed this with people, but the idea of when are you at your happiest? When are you at your happiest as a person? And I've tried to think about this during my life, and it keeps coming back to me when I've been happiest. I'm always happiest when I'm striving. When I'm not there but striving. And I think striving is the verb I'm after. I'm under pressure, I'm working really hard, and I'm just trying to make it to something.
It's the process.
But I'm fully energized, and and when I go to bed, I'm fully sleeping, and I'm jumping up the next morning continuing this. And it's a lovely, lovely feeling to be a human being who's just trying your arse off, but at something you're really want to be trying at.
So what I think is really funny is that we're going to remove all these boring, repetitive tasks apparently from our day jobs. What do we do on the weekends? Personally, I run with Mullingar Harriers. I do not run to get to the destination, because the destination is the starting point. So it's the joy is in the running. It's not in reaching the destination.
That's perfectly emblematic.
If the destination,
we would just input the destination and just go, I'm there.
I'm just there already. Because
I mean, 20 years from now, they might have a thing going, you have a choice. You can either run to Athenry, run to Athy. I'm trying to think of somewhere near to you. Run to Athy or Athlone. Run to Athlone or input Athlone, and we will bring you there in a second by teleportation.
I think depending on what I'm going to do when I get to Athlone. But the point of the matter is, it's like when I go for a run, I start at Millie's Bridge in Mullingar, and we finish and start at the same place. So if the whole point was to get back to the end, why leave in the first place? So just stay where you are, and then there'd be nothing to do, and that would be utterly pointless. So it's children. You take a child for a walk, or a pet. You take your dog for a walk, and he's sniffing and running around. The joy for him. It's all that little discovery. For children, they'll stop and pick up every stone and see everything.
So having said that with such passion, having said that with such verve and passion and vim, would you not think then would you not be very, very worried about the ChatGPTs of the world and young people using them rather than thinking?
I am horribly worried about that.
This winter, keep your home warm and help lower your energy bills with WarmFlow, the home heating experts. With an eco-friendly range of high-efficiency oil boilers and Zeno R290 air and ground source heat pumps, WarmFlow provides home heating solutions designed to save you money while keeping you cozy, whatever the weather. Trusted for over 50 years, WarmFlow delivers heating that works smarter, not harder. For all your home heating needs, visit warmflow.co.uk.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
I think on Jim's podcast, I called it the numbed and dumbed generation. We When we talk about and reflect about, the state of the United States at the moment, and we talk about the opioid crisis there and the people on fentanyl walking around like zombies, that is how they are described. They are walking around like zombies. Mm-hmm. And we are numbing and dumbing these young people with a drug that has and will end up with them potentially walking around like zombies. And we are sleepwalking our way into it unless we call a halt. And what's happening is there's a really strong narrative around the FOMO, which is if we don't jump on board this bandwagon, you will get left out. And that's the capitalist system driving all of that. So we've got a lot of pressure to adopt the technology. I think some countries are making strides now, like Australia and Denmark, saying, you know what, no, not for under 16s, no smartphones. There's no need to bring them into the classroom. I'm really supportive of that. I have a niece.
Is this something that we're looking at in Ireland?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know officially whether or not we are, but I mean, you can only hope. I have a niece that she's away in school. She's in the Ursuline in Thurles, same school as Jessie Buckley. And Eleanor's down there and she gets her phone for a half an hour at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And as a result of which, it's not a habit for her to use it during the day.
Yeah.
I think I must know the only 16-year-old on the planet I cannot get her to get her near her phone. She's never on it. She's never on it. She's either running or she's horse riding or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really good habit for her.
There is a belief, I don't know if it's a trend or if you know about the trend, but I've heard about a trend among young people recently, very young people, about like JOMO, joy of missing out.
Yes.
And they kind of put the phones away. And there has been a kind of apparently a little bit of a vibe there about that, about like they know about this. They know that it's dangerous.
I think the number of projects I saw at the Stripe Young Scientists last week, where the social and behavioural projects that the teenagers were looking at, a lot of them were about the impact of social media and technology has had on their lives. A lot of it on their self-esteem, a lot of them on their human interactions. Yep. There was one group of girls, they had one, I think it was the Ursuline girls, they had it on the pressure of unrealistic beauty standards by virtue of having looked at social media all day long. And I do think that is really damaging.
You talk about esteem, right? We know about the obviously people have talked a lot about the classic arguments about self-esteem and seeing these idealized versions of everything in life on the net. One of the other things it does to you as well is somebody described it the other day as having a relationship with social media is like an abusive relationship. So to wit, what is an abusive relationship? An abuser will always tell you something wrong with you. You know that you're wrong. You're bad. You're weak. You're fat. You're useless. You're a loser. But you know what? I can fix you. Just stick with me and I'll fix you. And that's what phones do. You put your phone on and they go, feeling like this, you want to get to the place you want to be. I can make it happen for you. It's just full of people like that and full of apps like that. It's basically telling you you're a loser the whole time. But if you stick with us, we'll clean you up.
It is one big sales device permanently there.
But abusing
but it is abusive. A lot of people are very vulnerable users, and then there are others who are not even realizing how vulnerable they've become to it.
You even used the word users there. Sorry, I know that's...
But they are, exactly.
It's like a drug, so I'm a user.
They are users. And no other industry calls their customers users, but we do. Social media calls them users, and but I mean, I use it myself, and you measure it's the metrics. I mean, again, you put up a photograph, and I think that's the really difficult part for younger people. They're putting up a photograph of their best version of themselves. It's filtered. They've scrolled through 20 different versions of the selfie with all these filters. This is the perfect version of me, and then someone tells them that's horrible. Can you imagine then? And they say, that's the best version. That's the filtered version.
I hear you. But you know what else it is? It's a lie about themselves.
Lie, exactly.
They've already lied. So they've basically put out an image of themselves, which is a lie. They have convinced themselves that it's them, but it's not. So they're lying to themselves about themselves, and then they're being abused
and they're
about
asking
their
other
own lie.
people to buy into it. But can I just say, it's not just teenagers. I know adults who are doing it.
Yeah, of course.
And they're putting images up that are all AI generated, and you just going, it's just
Did you see
too
the social
fake.
dilemma?
No.
Okay, so the social... Have a look at it. It's interesting. And I'll summarise it, because the social dilemma is basically... It's a Netflix documentary. But the reason it stands out is because it features some of the heads from the companies that left the company.
Yes.
So the people who left Instagram, who were at the peak. People who left all sorts of Facebook and everything, who were at their peak. And you know, one of the thing that came out... Because they're not all together in the things. They're all talking heads, but they're all edited. So they're all far away from each other. One of the things that came out of it was the common theme. Not one of them give their children phones.
Yeah.
And I thought that was because they knew. They knew. They were going to do everything in their power to keep the phones away from the kids.
Steve Jobs always did that. He never let his children near technology either.
Yeah.
And it was, for me, that's a really big indication of how they see it themselves. I think it's interesting that you'd ask me, did I see it? And a reason I paused is because I actually don't read a lot of the books on tech or watch. I've never watched Black Mirror.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And I explained this to somebody last week about paintings. For years, I never went to an art gallery. I never looked at paintings.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't, it's probably why I'm so down on AI sometimes. The reason I didn't is because I knew the day that I wanted to start painting seriously. I wanted to know that those ideas were mine.
I have the same thing.
And so I try not to read too much about tech because I want to know that the ideas that I am having and the patterns that I am identifying, I need to know that I'm doing that.
Can I chip in?
Yes.
I have the same phobia about comedy. I am reluctant. I love comedy and I love comics.
Yeah.
But I'm reluctant to look at their material for fear that their material will subconsciously go into my neural pathways and that it will make my comedy be reflective of theirs, not necessarily to copy them, but almost to influence over Julie. Like I'll go, let's take a comedian, let's call it Neil Delamere, and I see him doing, and he's killing it. He's bringing the house down and going, somehow that's going into the back of my brain, must reproduce that. So I go, I'm not going to watch him because I don't want to be Neil Delamere, as great he is, and I want to be just myself. Yeah.
And I think so you totally get that. And so that's why I don't read a lot of the books or look at a lot of the paintings, because that sense of just, I want the joy of that moment, that eureka moment when I get something. And it's like, that's what that is. I need to know for my own integrity, for myself, that when I put that out in the world, I need to know I had that. And that's where I think, again, asking ChatGPT for the answer.
Are you in a position to tell me about generative intelligence or anything like that, or summarise it for me?
Well, I mean, for me, this whole idea of generative AI versus AI machine learning. So one school it's part of it is all based on, here's a series of rules. So it's a decision tree, constantly learning and learning and learning, and then you get the answer. And then there's the generative part, which is more, I suppose, creative and coming up with something more novel and blending those things together. So I think the bigger trend is around this whole idea of agentic AI, and that you have these agents working for you. And I think in a work environment, some of those things will be useful. And I know I'm deviating off the point, but we mentioned about schools there a little bit, and I'm very down on technology in schools. But it would be unfair to say I'm against all of it, because there are children with learning difficulties. For example, this could be a child who's profoundly dyslexic, and reading books is really, really hard for them. But if they have the audiobook, then the technology is incredibly useful. So there's applications for AI that are very, very positive. In drug discovery for rare diseases, in how we manage our environment, notwithstanding the environmental cost of AI in itself, but which is massive. You mean the data centers, the water, the heat, electricity, all of it, and then the raw materials, like everything, the lithium, everything, all of these minerals that we have to put together to make all of these data centers, to make all of them work.
Do you know what I'm fascinated by? Right, again, you mightn't be able to tell me anything about this, but I'm fascinated by the idea of, because it has such an exponential way of learning.
Yes.
Right, already vastly superior to humans' ability to calculate. Mm-hmm. So let's say we have a question, right? So let's say you go, what could it do then? So let's say you go, I'd love to travel at the speed of light. So, AI, can you work out, please, how to travel at the speed of light? And I suppose then you're faced with the problem that AI, it
could probably give you a formula on how to do it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it'll do it for you. I think for me...
Could you build a machine?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say in time, but like I think we're a bit off that. Yeah, I think what I've always found irritating is when people draw the analogy and compare AI to, electricity or whatever. I said, it's as obvious as it is inaccurate. Because to my mind, for example, the atomic bomb, Oppenheimer and the nuclear bomb. And so the joy of nuclear arms is that there isn't uranium and plutonium and whatever available for free in the back garden of every Lone Ranger, teenager or lunatic that wants to build one. I mean, we have let a lunatic have a hand on a red button for one of them, but few lunatics. But in generally, at least they can't make their own. Everybody. But we have put the power of this technology in everybody's hands. And then we dress it up in fancy, polite language like democratization of information. And I'm going, is it really? Is it not just really, really wealthy people, the broligarchy, using all of their power to take all of your knowledge and generate wealth for them, and it's feeding off this system of all the stuff that we all know that we've uploaded to the internet, all these, and while stealing all our knowledge and actually then disabling us from making any wealth. I saw a really cute thing one day. It said there's 500 billionaires living on this planet, and the rest of us are all just staff. They're on this giant, this beautiful blue resort planet, and we're all just staff. And now they're just doing away with the need for the staff. And how will they keep us quiet? Well, maybe numb and dumb us all with the technology. And so there's another painting, because it's an app for, it's a painting for everything. I did one, and this was painstakingly painful. It was just awful. I put into Google, admittedly, I asked it to give me the binary code numbers, ones and zeros, 144 of them spelled out who made you king in ones and zeros. And I hand painted every one of those ones and zeros. It drove me demented. It absolutely drove me crazy. They're not uniform. They're more or less. I like things to be unmistakably human. And there's a crown on top, and it just says, it's this idea of the abdication of leadership to the data made me do it. We're literally making ourselves obsolete. We're abdicating our decisions to, well, the data says or the computer says, rather than getting back into that, but this human understanding and empathy.
I think Harari, the one, Sapiens, kind of goes into the area as well of, will we be superseded as a species? In other words, will our species almost kind of be taken over, if you like, by an artificially intelligent species that we are creating presently? Like, science fiction again, in Terminator,
one of them, three.
No, one. Terminator 1.
The original.
It posits the idea of, on 22nd of August, the Skynet becomes self-aware. And becoming self-aware means you have the need to protect yourself. Do you see that as anything that you've thought about or possible? The idea that the actual machines themselves go, I don't want to be shut down now. Like HAL in 2001.
So
you can't shut me down.
There's a thing I started watching last night. I only got to episode 2. It's called Next, and it's just at that point where the machine becomes aware. And then I thought I better go to bed because I was doing this today, and I better get some sleep.
What is it? Next? What's it on?
I'm thinking I was on Disney when I found it.
It's called Next.
It's called Next.
Is it good?
Yeah, it was. The first episode was good, but not enough to keep me up till all hours. But and again, I try not to watch them because it kind of messes with my own thoughts. I think I could sound like a conspiracy theorist if I thought that was imminently possible. But I actually don't think we even need to go to it being that bad to have to make a decision. I think things are sufficiently bad that we should be making a decision now. It's already ridden roughshod over democracy, and that's not serving us all terribly well right now either. So I think the tech has done some of the tech, not all of it and not all of the companies. Some of it has done enough damage that we should already be awake to what's happening and trying to regulate better for all of that. I am fearful that it's a bit like global warming. We'll just go, well, not today. And we'll worry about that bit tomorrow. And then tomorrow.
It's like the film Don't Look Up.
Yes.
It's the, we refuse to admit
what's actually happening
in front of our eyes.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of that happening right now.
There's a lot of that happening. You mentioned 1984. There's a lot of that happening in politics as well. The idea that I don't want, I'm going to use the word, I won't actually use the word. I'm just going to bring in the 1930s in Europe. And in 1930s in Europe, all this stuff was happening. But nobody thought it could get any worse. Then it got worse. And then they went, well, it can't get any worse. Well, if he doesn't do this, he won't do that. He won't go further. Then he goes further. He won't go further. Then he goes further. And so you become like the frog in the...
Boiling the frog
in the water. The water becomes gradually more heated until the frog is dead. But the frog doesn't notice.
And so it all got so horribly worse. And then we said, never again. And so at what point do we say, well, are we going to stop the never again today, or are we going to wait for another day? Like, which day is it going to be?
Yeah.
I worry what we are leaving behind. You asked about with this super intelligent species or any other civilization. What archaeological artifacts are we going to leave behind that they will discover of us?
Trump's ballroom.
There's a painting for that. There's one of the pink paintings is of a museum, and in all of the frames and on all of the plinths, there's just a blue trash can icon because we deleted everything. And maybe that is the best archaeological artifact of this civilization, that we were uncivilized, consumer, materialistic people who just who deleted everything. We put no value on anything. I was giving a talk last year at the launch of Digital Infrastructure Ireland, and Gary said to me, don't talk about data centres, Joan, the nuts and bolts of data centres. And I said, don't be ridiculous. I don't know anything about the nuts and bolts of data centres, so no chance of me talking about that. So I talked about Ishnok. I talked about how 4,500 years ago, we did create an infrastructure that connected this world to the other world, except it was a spirit world. And now we've just creating these connections between this physical world and a virtual world.
I'm just listening to you there, and I'm wondering, and I'm considering where you live, and I'm wondering, were you aware, or did you know Moncon McGann at all?
My friend Kathy Scott from the Trailblazer, he worked very, very closely with Moncon on all the work.
He was on this podcast as well. And he was an acquaintance of mine, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm very nervy about calling people friends when they're, that's a big word for me. And I used to go to I went to his show, the Aran August Im, and all that sort of stuff, and he was on. I loved him about language.
Yes, and Skull Scorcha is the online language school that Kathy has been doing, and she did that with Moncon. So she's a very good old friend of mine, and I think that through that I was very aware of his work. And actually, it was through Kathy Scott that I became more aware of Ishnok over the years. And again, I live not far from there. I live in Mullingar, but when you go out there and you realise that what they discovered, like there's very little of it. Ishnok's not like Newgrange, where there's a very obvious monument. You got to work hard to see what was there. Yeah. But there were souterrains, and they found goblets, and they found remnants of life and how we lived back then, and what our values were, what was important to us. And I think that's what matters. And what are we going to discover of this generation, of what was important to us? What is this civilization that we're living in right now? What are we going to leave behind? What will identify us? The Iron Age, the Stone Age, this digital age. What are the archaeological artifacts of that? And maybe the best is nothing. Maybe it is nothing is the best. It will almost be like this. And then there was this frozen age where they just consumed stuff. And we didn't preserve anything. We're not even preserving the planet terribly well right now. So that's why all of these ideas converge in my head, if you know what I mean. Whether it's the art of it and the museums, which is around the technology, which is around the environment, they're all linked. And that's why I think we just need better leadership. And that's where I think, going back to this idea of artist leaders versus painter managers. We've got a lot of very competent managers who are subject matter experts. But I think we need something in the way of an unrelentingly energetic, creative, purpose-driven people to lead, to actually be in those organizations where they're saying, why are we doing this? What is this for? And maybe capitalism has started eating itself. Maybe Jim Powell gave me a gold star for my economics homework, and I talk about the law of diminishing marginal returns. Maybe that's just kicked in for capitalism now. Maybe we've just passed the peak in the return that we're getting for capitalism. Yeah. Maybe it's just on the decline, and actually more money is not more anymore.
I've said to a few people that I think on this podcast as well, that Trump is kind of the apotheosis of capitalism eating democracy, because capitalism, as embodied by Trump, has figured out a way, like an animal, to find all the loopholes he can in the constitution, in history, in culture, to creep through all the loopholes and to actually eat it. So the idea that like Trump has gone, so what's this again? Anybody can be president? Anybody. You don't even have to be a politician. Yeah. No. Okay. What does this society revere? Money. Okay. What else does it revere? Fame. Okay. So if you get on television and you have money, and you don't have to be a politician. No. Okay. What else? What about, is it breaking the law? Yeah, law is an interesting one. Just get as many lawyers as you can. Okay. But can that do it? Yeah, if you have more lawyers than the other guy and you just keep them going back to court, you can just keep them in court forever. So then I can, if you like, break the law. I can subvert the law, and I can have as much money, and I buy everything I want. Yeah, you can just, if somebody has a house next to you, just buy it. What if they don't like it? Take them to court. You just throw the lawyers at them. So then you can do everything, and then you can go, then you can take over. How? Run for office. How? But not a politician. You don't have to be. Just famous, capitalist, and with the law on your side. And so he found a way. There
was something else going on though as well, and I think that was social media. And I think that if we were to quote Friedman economics, which is, it's the responsibility of any organization to optimize its ability to make money within the law. So what's stopping us from making more money? The law. Well, the regulations. Well, we'll just get rid of the regulations, and then we could make untold amounts of money. So we'd need someone then who's prepared to change the regulations for us.
Yes.
Oh, here's a guy. Yep. Here's a guy who can. Yep. And so it was the perfect nexus.
Yes.
Of two things coming together.
But it's also cold. He's also, in his case, he's also shameless and cold. Yeah. So, for example, there's no conscience. There's no reflection. There's no, what have I done? There's none of that. It's like, it's just completely icy.
Two people have asked me to bring the paintings to the US. I said, I wouldn't get in. I don't think the paintings would get in at all. I don't think I'd get in.
No, I'm surprised Simon Harris, he's in the US right now. I mean, he must be on his imprint that he called Trump a gowl last year. Yeah,
well, he's with Gavin Newsom, so he's in good company. I think I saw that.
New scum.
Oh, no, Gavin Newsom.
Well, no, new scum, as Trump calls him.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what he called me. But he's brilliant at trolling him. I do love him. He's great for that. But it's,
Newsom is good at trolling back.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So I do think it was the confluence of both of those things happening together. And I think that's why it's going to take a lot to we're going to have to, the technology part needs to be regulated.
Yes.
And it's funny, I remember being in a meeting and a minister, I think it was Dara Calleary, so if he's listening, we were at a round.
He's a huge listener to this podcast.
I hope so. He's very nice, actually. We were at this round table thingy with a load of tech companies there, and we were talking about the merits of regulation of technology in Europe, and somebody suggested that, Europe is going to just become one big cultural tourist destination and museum, and money will be made everywhere else. And I said, well, do you know what? It's a lesser of two evils, to be honest with you. But I said, well, we could always practice the American approach to regulation, which is the Britney Spears model. And Minister Cleary looked at me going quizzically with the Britney Spears model. I said, yes, oops, I did it again. So every time that Mark Zuckerberg, has broken rules or whatever, he's gone in front of Congress and he goes, oops, did it again. And he just gets a little rap on the knuckles and off he goes and just does something else outrageous 6 months later.
And their motto, of course, all the time was keep breaking things.
Move fast and break things. And then Google's was always don't be evil, which I also thought then they got rid of it years later. But I also thought that was really, really low bar. Yeah. Don't be evil. And then, you know about neurolinguistic programming. So, if you're trying to tell a child, don't play at the fire, don't say don't play at the fire, because all they hear is play at the fire. Yeah. So I'm thinking, don't be evil. And all they can hear is be evil, because we don't hear the other word in the sentence.
Exactly.
So when you're programming that all the time, I mean, I was talking to someone the other night and we actually decided that they were probably the least offensive at the moment is Google compared to what some of the others are doing. Yeah. But as I say, none of them are purely evil and none of them are purely good. There's loads of good applications. We just have to find them.
Joan, I want to thank you so much for coming in. And you came up from Mullingar today?
I did. Thank you so much.
You didn't run? You drove?
No, I did drive. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming in. I find you to be endlessly fascinating, and I love the way you bring art into the tech world, and I love the way you talk about painters and leaders and that. And so thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And my thanks to Joan Mulvihill for coming in to the GoLoud studios and chatting to me. My thanks, of course, to you, the most important element of this podcast. Get in touch, mariorosenstock@gmail.com, and I will see you next week.